We're going into fire season, right? I mean, it's been fire season. We've already had several wildfires in California. We are barely on the other side of a heat wave. A lot of the country, the western Pacific United States, northern is still under the heat wave. My area has cooled quite a bit. But it's gotten dangerous. One thing, it's a holiday this weekend, right? We have 4th of July coming up. So what's a big thing that's going on in California? Fireworks. A lot of people setting off fireworks. Here in Santa Maria, it's a whole controversy. There's all the people who hate fireworks. They scare my dogs. And what about the veterans with PTSD and all that stuff? You got to remember that fireworks are a celebration of American militarism. I've always found it strange, to celebrate our independence and might. We set off explosives in our in our streets. But now in California, most fireworks are terribly, terribly dangerous because almost the most of the state is dry kindling at this point. Anything could set it off, and it's very, very dangerous to set off fireworks. And here in Santa Maria, people are setting them off all the time for months and months before and after July 4th. And the big ones, the big mortar rockets that send out huge sparks and all of that stuff. And the police department is really at odds with enforcing that. It's not easy to find to find everybody who sets off a mortar firework and then track them down and all that stuff. But what does happen is what can happen is a police department can seize a large amount of illegal fireworks, and that happened in Los Angeles just the other day. This is the LA Times. How did the LAPD manage to blow up a South LA block while seizing fireworks? So they had a bit of a goof. The LAPD did a little goof them up. There they are. And you can see there's a truck in pieces, in tatters, behind them. When Los Angeles police discovered a few thousand pounds of illegal fireworks in South LA Yard Wednesday morning, some of the explosives were particularly troubling to members of the bomb squad. The department's explosives experts were content to haul off nearly all of the illegal stash to a secured location for destruction. It was a run-of-the-mill operation in the lead up to the 4th of July in a city obsessed with fireworks. But about 40 soda can-sized items and 200 smaller items, each with a short fuse and unknown firepower, gave them pause. They were uncertain the devices were stable enough to transport. Ooh, that sounds interesting. Instead, they tried to safely detonate the devices in a specialized container right there on the street and caused a massive explosion that left the residential block in tatters and 17 people now injured. It was a disaster captured by television choppers and crews on the ground who'd gathered in the neighborhood to record the fireworks seizure and detonation. I know you guys you got to see it. Here's the helicopter footage. Boom! Jesus. That's a whole block. They did it in a residential going up to a shopping center. Boom! Why would you do that? My goodness. Just look at that. Oof. Let's see. I have another video here that has some. Boom! Jesus. So multiple people got injured. LAPD staff got hurt. But also the decision to do it there seemed off, and they're kind of in the hot seat at this point. By Thursday, a massive investigation was underway into how what was meant to be a carefully controlled explosion went so badly out of control, casting debris for blocks, blasting out windows, smashing nearby parked cars, damaging homes, and sending elderly residents and officers to the hospital. Jesus. The LAPD was also coming under growing scrutiny in the neighborhood and beyond, especially over whether there was more the department could have done to protect residents and get the explosives out of the densely populated area before they were detonated. Quote, "Why didn't they do this somewhere else?" asked Lewis Price, a local resident who said he didn't know why police hadn't warned the residents on his block to leave. Wow, they didn't even ask people to leave. After all, they had essentially made a bomb themselves by choosing to detonate the explosives in his neighborhood, he said, sending out a burst of wind that shattered windows. Wow, man. Whew. Just another day in paradise. What's that Randy Newman song? I love LA, baby. I love LA. Things might blow up sometimes. It might be hotter than the surface of the sun every once in a while, and getting hotter all the time. But every now and again it gets entertaining. You get a nice massive explosion in the middle of a city block. I mean, just goes to show you, though. I mean, that was pretty irresponsible of the LAPD. Not known as being the country's most responsible law enforcement agency. I guess that's being a little diplomatic about it, to say the least. But, so let's see. Devoid Reality in the comments says, who needs IEDs when you have the LAPD? That's pretty good. I like the acronym pattern there. The acronym, what you call it. Let's see. Jay Hutch talks too much says, haha, bit of a goof. I can see them saying that to the Sarge. Sarge, we had a bit of a goof. We had a bit of a oopsie daisy. So you can hear their sirens going on behind me now. Who knows what they're up to there. Ryan Elliott asked me if I will be setting off some fireworks. Probably not. Maybe a sparkler. I am partial to smoke bombs. I do like a little smoke bomb once in a while. Smell all that sulfur. Look at some green smoke. It's pretty. And the rose blossoms, right? I'm going to start doing my Hank Hill impression for that. Boy, I tell you what, you come down here, let's see. Boy, I tell you what, you come down here and get some of our fireworks. We'll get a little smoke bombs and rose blossoms going here. God dang it, we have a good old time. Santa Maria Tri-Tip. Anyway, so I could do that all day. Everyone here knows that I could do that all day. But like I said, fireworks are like extra dangerous right now in California, my home state, because of specifically wildfires. And because basically now until the end of the year, until the next rain, we are at a constant red level threat of wildfire. And as I've talked about here on the show, the wildfires keep getting worse every year. There's another historically largest wildfire in California history, and again, and now they're spreading to Oregon's getting them, Arizona's getting wildfires, Washington State, and it's bad. But we also just had this massive heat wave, and it cooled down here on the coast. I'm right near the coast. But the heat dome on the inside of the continent that I was talking about last week has only gotten worse, or it's not provided any relief to people more inland, including in California, including in the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, Washington, and it's been really dangerous. Here in USA Today, authorities investigate hundreds of deaths linked to torrid Pacific Northwest weather. Hundreds of deaths. From heat, okay? Authorities from Oregon to British Columbia, that's Canada, are investigating hundreds of deaths in connection to the historic heat wave in the Pacific Northwest corridor. Temperatures in Oregon topped 117 Monday, according to the National Weather Service, due to a heat dome trapping hot air above the state and its neighbors. At least 63 people have died since Friday, the state medical examiner's office said, and preliminary investigations suggest may be associated with the Pacific Northwest heat wave, said Oregon State Police Captain Tim Fox. That number was based on reports from each county's medical office and could fluctuate as more information becomes available. At least 45 of those deaths were in Multnomah County, which houses Portland, Oregon. Officials said in a news release, ages among the dead ranged from 44 to 97, and most had underlying health conditions. Quote, this was a true health crisis that has underscored how deadly an extreme heat wave can be, especially to otherwise vulnerable people, said Multnomah County Health Officer Dr. Jennifer Vines. I know many county residents were looking out for each other, and am deeply saddened by this initial death toll. As our summers continue to get warmer, I suspect we will face this kind of event again. So that's the constant threat now from just the weather. This isn't even the wildfire threat, people. This is summertime, okay? Here's a woman clutching bags of ice to herself. Just terrible. this is a slideshow. Guy just getting in the water, get people just trying to get some kind of relief, because it's dangerous, right? This is actually people are dying by the dozens, more than 100, and so this is just what we have to expect every summer now, and something that this reminds me of. So this is obviously climate change. This is a result of human-caused climate change. It's increasing the numbers of deaths by heat as it gets hotter and hotter. More people are dying from the heat. And what this reminds me of a bit is of coronavirus. And when it first started, you would hear a lot of anti-science right-wingers who probably, there's a lot of overlap with the COVID denial and climate change denial, right? Where they were saying, oh, well, it's just affecting the old. It's just affecting the old. Why do you care? Why do we have to lock everything down if coronavirus is just affecting the old, right? And really just kind of outing themselves as very, I would say, lazy eugenicists, right? Where you believe in a type of eugenics just out of laziness. I don't want to have to do anything about the coronavirus, so all these old people, they're just going to have to die. Or they can stay home was always the excuse, completely ignoring all the different ways that interacting with older people would leave them vulnerable, whether or not, and the lockdowns were specifically just to stop the spread among as many people as possible. Now with this climate change situation, it's the same thing where I'm sure there are probably folks on the right now dusting off this argument, right? Like, oh hey, it's just affecting the old. How about that? J. World's dropping a link in there for me. Is this the Gummy Bear video? Oh, okay, Jesus. A pile of gummy candies melts into a sticky puddle in Alberta, Canada, where extreme heat has smashed record-breaking temperatures. Is this a time lapse? Is that a time lapse? Please tell me that's a time lapse. So yeah, just this pie tin of gummies melting in the sun because it's so hot. You can make yourself a real psychedelic looking, just one big gummy treat, I guess. But yeah, so every year now, folks, like protect the people, the old people, anybody who's vulnerable, has a heart condition, has blood pressure problems. Now's the time to make sure they have a quality air conditioner, a backup generator, all the things you're going to need to survive extreme heat. But guess what? What does that do? That puts the onus on people without money, or people with less money, going out and buying expensive things that the rich, not only can they afford, but they afford much nicer versions of the ones you and I can get. Rich people, wealth, they have lots of air conditioners. They have super state-of-the-art smart houses that regulate all the temperatures and this and that. Some of them even have, and I'm talking about the mega rich, ultra wealthy, have like climate change bunkers. They are planning to wait out climate change in underground bunkers where they can, grow hydroponic food and all this other kind of stuff. But the rest of us are just going to be stuck dealing with this stuff. And unless we have some kind of drastic, all hands on deck attempt or measure to address climate change directly in a real substantial way, we're only going to be caught in response mode all the time. And we're even failing in that. Look at this in the Washington Post. Underpaid firefighters, overstretched budgets. The U.S. isn't prepared for fires fueled by climate change. Biden announces more resources for tackling wildfires, but experts say a new approach is needed. Keep in mind, we rely on slave labor, essentially prison labor, to fight a lot of fires out here. I do have some comments here. Jay Hutch Talks Too Much says, what's frustrating is some people will still deny climate change even after devastating destruction has happened. I mean, more than what we've already experienced. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Their mind was made up before it all started. H-Word, what's up, H-Word? Says, reminds me of growing up in Phoenix, Arizona, where people would bake cookies in their cars and bake potatoes in glass solar ovens in their backyards. Wow. Potatoes? Well, that sounds like fun, solar ovens, but you know, not when it's killing you. Not when the heat is deadly. But so, Portland, Oregon, on the heels of one of the worst wildfire years on record, the federal government is struggling to recruit and retain staff as firefighters grapple with low wages, trauma, and burnout from increasingly long and intense fire seasons. Heat waves have toppled temperature records across the nation. Firefighters are actively battling 48 large blazes that have consumed more than 500,000 acres in 12 states. But land management agencies are carrying out fire mitigation measures at a fraction of the pace required, and the funds needed to make communities more resilient are at 1/7 of what the government has supplied. Quote, we're so this is Governor Gavin Newsom. I'll do my Newsom impression. We're burning up. We're choking up. Ow. I'm doing my gravelly Gavin Newsom voice. I hurt myself. We're burning up. We're choking up. We just aren't heating up. California Governor Gavin Newsom told President Biden at a meeting with cabinet officials and Western governors Wednesday, across the board, we have to disabuse ourselves of the old timelines and the old frames of engagement. We can't just double down. Oh, excuse me. Gosh, what is what I do for you people with my impressions here? I got to get the raspy Gavin Newsom voice. Yet fire experts say the escalation of wildfires fueled by climate change demands an equally dramatic transformation in the nation's response. From revamping the federal firefighter workforce to the management of public lands to the siting and construction of homes, the siting and construction of homes. That's a big deal too. Here in California, a lot of homes are built, in what we call the wildland urban interface, I believe is what they still call it. And it's just houses in semi-rural areas in the burbs where there's grassy hills and all other kinds of flammable material because people want homes and they also want the great outdoors right next to their home. I've done coverage out in the rural areas of my county back in my newspaper days. People out there, if you want to build a house or have a house out there, you have to have thousands or hundreds, if not thousands of gallons of water stored on your property at all times, just in case of a wildfire. People there are always, during this time of year, like mowing and keeping up defensible space between their house and, the edge of their properties. It's a full-time job, just, if you have a more rural property, of just keeping it safe. I'm in Santa Maria Valley. We're pretty much safe from wildfires because the urban area is all surrounded by agriculture, and our fields have been used very effectively, actually, by firefighters as barriers. Like, agriculture is helpful because there's all these, areas stripped of vegetation, access roads and other things that can be used to help fight wildfires. Yeah, so I just think this is why we need a Green New Deal. This is why we need to absolutely rethink everything involving the climate. And it's a crisis now all the time. All the time. In the wintertime, people were freezing alive in Texas and in Oklahoma and Midwestern states that got hit. We have all these polar vortexes. And then during the summer, we're having heat domes. This isn't even to mention hurricane season down south. And just from the intensification of blizzards to now these heat waves, just killing people from the heat, let alone all the respiratory damage that all this wildfire smoke have. I mean, the toll is just ongoing and continuous. I don't see any way out of it. I get real doomer when I talk about the climate, y'all, because it's not looking good.